Hey everybody, welcome back to the Storytime channel. My name is Steven, and let's get into our stories of the day. This is a multi-barreled case of malicious compliance. A few years back, my son was in an under-16s water polo team. The club's pool had just been closed by the city council, so this was the last season these kids would play together for that club. The national under-16s tournament for that year was being held in our city, so I pitched to the parents and club that we take them to the Nationals Age Championships for the experience. I was coaching them. There were 3 entitled parents. Kids were going to the Olympics type, but this story only refers to 2 of them. I'll call them Fred and Barney, primarily because of the physical resemblances. Fred's boy was an under-14s goalie and quite good. Barney's boy was a driver, small, fast, and an ego that was way bigger than his size. Barney's under-14 boy was his friend. They often worked as a pair. Fred and Barney asked the club to let them play under-16s for development as they had been selected for the state squad. My son played field instead of goalie for the rest of the season to make that possible. Come nationals, the team went and ranked dead last, about 40 teams. Fred pulled a shifty on the player roster at the start of the first match so Barney's kid could have his favorite number, 7, that my son had worn all year. My son had to wear a cap with a red 13, the reserve goalie cap. They were placed in a pool with 2 teams that would go on to come second and third. They lost these matches by massive margins, more than 1 goal per minute in 32-minute games. I was abused by Fred and Barney because the kids lost, and apparently it was all my fault. The kids just beat the remaining teams in their pool by playing the best team play they had ever played. This meant they had jumped up to a ranking range of somewhere between 17th and 23rd. They went through the next stage of the tournament and wound up playing in the 1920 ranking match against one of the top regional teams in the country. In water polo, the manager is meant to track all of the stats in the match, major fouls and goals being the important ones. Our best kid got rolled. 3 major fouls in the 3rd quarter. He had only received 2 and I tried to challenge. The match official asked for our records from Fred so he could compare to the game sheet. Fred had nothing but a blank sheet. A second kid on 2 majors also got rolled. From there, the boys went from 4-1 up to 4-all at full time. Penalty shootouts to decide ranking. Here comes the compliance. Fred and Barney insisted we put our best kids forward to win the shootout. I said yes, and they exclaimed, "About freaking time!" I picked 4 of our best remaining shooters. I switched my son into goals. 2 years older than Fred's kid and also made rep squads. I could only do this because of Fred's switching of caps. Without that switch, my son couldn't have gone in goals. I had to have Fred's kid in the shooting lineup to replace him in goals. I replaced Barney's kid with Fred's kid. Fred swore and stormed off. Barney also swore and joined him. My son led 0 goals in during the penalty shootout, and the kids won the match. Fred's boy wasn't great at saving penalties, and turned out he wasn't good at shooting them either and missed. So Fred and Barney made this win possible by switching caps and insisting we play to win. Personally, I have a lot of sympathy for OP because this is a very difficult situation to have Fred and Barney hovering around trying to promote their kids to the top of the line. Is there even any good way of dealing with this? How would you deal with it? Let me know in the comments below. All the comforts. Germany in the 80s. There was a yearly recurring nightmare called Reforger, wherein NATO brought reinforcements into Germany from all over the globe to demonstrate how bad but we were. It was 6 weeks of smelly armpits, gray undergarments, and mud. I was in a small aviation company and was their de facto liaison officer and aviator extraordinaire for these affairs because of my intimate knowledge of the local culture and ability to arrange military affairs. I was responsible for site improvements, which meant finding and arranging better field sites. A major part of this was to coordinate with the local porta-potty purveyors so that adequate facilities were available. One fine day, our battalion commander visited and observed how well set up our location was. He was particularly interested in our toilet facilities. One night he had returned to HQ. It was announced that we would be locating, that night, to a completely unimproved mud hole and that HQ would be moving to our location. We dutifully packed up, issued chalk numbers to all vehicles, and at 2 a.m. drove out to the new site as the colonel smilingly watched us pass by. His smile completely disappeared when he saw that, in our midst, happily convoying along, was the local porta-potty purveyor with his honey wagon, septic truck, and all 4 potties on the back. Good luck with your army-issued toilet paper, sir. I guess they assumed that because it was an overnight thing, they wouldn't have time to take the porta potties with them? But the best kind of planning is one that can cover in any situation, which OP did. Enjoy your hand sanitizer. This story contains entitlement and I may post it on entitled parents/kids too, just by the way. So I have this friend, sorta. Let's call her Karen even though she is the same age as me, a teenager. When we were younger, I caught her a few times having stolen stuff from me and her friends, and was generally a stealing lying witch. But we sometimes got along and our relationship is complicated and she thinks we are fantastic friends, so I don't tell her otherwise. She also set me up with my current GF, but that's a different story. I also have really good peripheral vision, and people often got mad when I could see them do stuff out of the corner of my eye that they thought I couldn't. So I went shopping with my friends late last year, and my friend, not Karen, drags me into a certain shop for body products. As it was one of the last shops we could go to and I still had a decent amount of money left, I bought a lip balm and 2 small scented, expensive as heck, bottles of hand sanitizer. I never used them, so the size of them didn't bother me. It was just for random occasions when I needed them or wanted my hands to smell nice. I got home, put them on my desk, and used them about 3 times the rest of the year. Then, in about March, Karen came over and asked, "Hey, can I have one of these bottles of hand sanitizer?" And I tell her no, I bought them myself and they are very expensive. She looks at me, fake smiling, and says, "Oh, okay then." And I swear I can see her grab one off the desk very obviously as soon as I turn back to my PC. Without looking at her, I say, "Put that bottle the freak back." I said no. Karen is surprised and quickly puts it back, looking at me innocently saying, "What do you mean?" At this point, I look up and say, "You know I have good vision. Don't try to take my stuff when I have told you no." I then reached over and put the bottles in my desk drawer and go back to what I was doing. The next day, she comes over again and her mom is with her. The mother starts getting mad at me, saying Karen told her I stole her hand sanitizer and that I locked it in my desk. I told her I don't have a lock on my desk and that I bought that hand sanitizer last year. She was still mad and shouting at me to give her the hand sanitizer. No one else was home as my family were all shopping or at school. I go to online school and Karen is homeschooled, so no one could back me up or save me from her. I finally get fed up, go inside and grab one of the bottles of hand sanitizer and an old lotion tube I never threw away because I'm messy. I screw off the cap of the lotion lid and squeeze the sanitizer into the bottle, sealing it back up and putting it in my desk. I put the bottle in my pocket and walk back to the door. "This'll just take a moment, I forgot I put it in the kitchen." She nods, still mad, and Karen is smiling in success as I walk off again. I reach the kitchen and grab a bottle of ketchup, mixing it with chunky aloe vera gel, and awkwardly shoving it into the hand sanitizer bottle. This makes a sort of translucent pink gel that looks like a strawberry hand sanitizer, as that was the scent for this one. The smell of the original hand sanitizer is very strong and it overpowers the ketchup, making it seem convincing. I come back and hand her the tiny bottle of ketchup and aloe vera, looking directly at the Karen and saying, "I'm so sorry I stole. I don't know what came over me." They both look smug and turn to leave. Her parents saying, "She won't be returning again. I don't want you stealing more of her stuff." And, "You're lucky we don't press charges on you because you're a kid." I put on a sad face and say, "That's a shame," before slamming the door in her stuck-up face. I hope she enjoys her hand sanitizer. Although ketchup is pretty good, there's a lot of things that you could have put into there that would have been pretty good as well, like some of that liquid glue or something that would really mess with them. I told her to stop talking. She did. My fiance and I begun exercising together. She has a workout plan she's doing and I agree to do it as well. The problem is that I am pretty out of shape, so I was struggling when I started. The workout plan doesn't have sound, just a 30-second timer and some text telling you when to rest and what to do next. If you're just concentrating on working out, you can sometimes miss your cue to take a break. Easy solution, each of us will watch the time for the other person. This all leads up to me, on the second day of exercises, absolutely dying while doing split jumps. My fiance is sitting on the sidelines with helpful comments like, "Go down lower," and "You need to jump higher." I'm tired and a little grumpy, so I half-jokingly told her to stop talking. She immediately goes silent and I'm briefly worried I may have upset her. I'll check with her as soon as my break comes along. I continue to do my split jumps, and I keep going and going and going. 30 seconds seems like an eternity when you're trying to exercise. I can't look at the screen because my fiance has it. I continue to do those evil split jumps. I stop. She busts up laughing and shows me the time. I'm 20 seconds into my break. That's what I get for telling her not to talk. Now I use my phone timer that beeps every 30 seconds and we do the sets together. Honestly, with half of the stories I hear between couples, I'm glad that this was a lighthearted thing and not something that turned into some domestic. Try to guilt trip me into giving you free food? You get nothing instead. Okay, so to preface, I used to work as a pizza delivery driver several years ago, and my boss was pretty cool. We still hang out sometimes even to this day, but things can get stressful when busy as it was a small shop with only me and him working weekends, with me delivering and him cooking, and Saturdays were by far our busiest shifts. So I was working a Saturday in the middle of another hectic shift. I had to drop off deliveries for 3 different houses. This is nothing new as I'd often have to make multiple deliveries on the same trip, but one of the houses, the last one, had already called up several times to ask where their order was as it was already late. For whatever reason, my boss never told them the truth and would always palm them off by saying it was nearly ready when in truth he hadn't started it. So I was expecting them to be a little pissed off when I arrived. Unfortunately, on my way to the last house, I get a phone call from my boss saying I'd made an error with the first 2 deliveries by accidentally giving them each other's food and to go pick them up and swap them immediately. I asked him if I should drop off the last order first, but he said no. So this meant house number 3 would be waiting even longer for their food. I finally arrive at house number 3, admittedly a good hour or so after they should have had their food originally, so I was fully expecting a tongue lashing off the occupants. However, what happened surprised even me. I'm paraphrasing the conversation as this was a few years ago, but I remember most of it pretty well and it went roughly like this. Me knocks on the door. "You're late." I can only apologize. "That's not good enough. You were meant to be here an hour ago." Again, I'm sorry, but I can't control when the orders are made. I just deliver them when I'm told to. Now, normally this is where the customer would have felt they've aired their grievance, pay for the food, and go back in. Not Karen. "I don't care. You've ruined our anniversary night. What are you going to do to make it better?" Well, again, I can only apologize, but I'm here now. "I've got children through here who are having to have sandwiches now because you're so late. So what are you going to do to make it right?" I finally catch on to what she's insinuating, that I should hand over the food for free and take the financial hit myself. Well, all I can do is say sorry for it being late, but that will be total, please. "Well, we've already phoned up and canceled the order, so how are you going to make things right?" As soon as she said that, a light bulb went off in my head. Well, unfortunately, if you've canceled the order, then I'm afraid I can't hand over the food and I should return it to the shop straight away. Have a good night. With that, and without another word, I turned away, climbed back into my car with all the food, and took it back to the shop. I told my boss what had happened, and he blacklisted them from ordering again. He was also able to sell the pizzas off half price to some regulars who came in drunk looking for something quick. I had a handful of incidents working there, but that one will always stick in my mind. I heard from my boss that they tried ordering again a few years later after I stopped working there, and he informed them they were blacklisted to their total surprise. Now, I'm not sure, I could be wrong here, and obviously it's not the driver's right to authorize any free pizza, so OP specifically is not in the wrong here, but considering the mix-up and the great delay in time, I don't think that Karen was super outlandish trying to expect some kind of free food. What do you think? More cream? You got it! I was a waitress at a brunch restaurant. It was Sunday, which is the worst and busiest day of the week. Guests were usually nightmares. I had a group of middle-aged women at one of my tables, and they were the kind of people who would pretend you didn't exist when you approached them. Anyways, finally got a drink order out of them after 20 minutes of them just not responding every time I touched the table. If you're really busy / trying to flip tables during rush, you know how frustrating this is. They all wanted coffees with cream. Cool. Brought them their coffees and cream. We served cream on the side of coffee in these cute tiny metal pitchers. Anyways, after I set all that on the table, I asked to take their orders, which was also hard to get out of them. They finally focus and start placing orders, and then as I'm asking the final woman what she would like, as a side, one of the women interrupted me saying, "And you better bring more cream for this coffee to my table." Rolled her eyes and went back to her conversation. Okay, more cream, got it. I complained to my coworkers about this table when I was putting their order in, and we got the idea to fill a shot glass with an unholy amount of cream to give to her. Took the shot glass back to the table, said, "Here's your cream," gave her my fake server smile. We watched her try to pour it into her coffee from a distance and saw it pour down the side of the shot glass, down her arm, and onto the table and cuff of her shirt. I ignored them until they were finished with their food. Hope she enjoyed her cream. They actually tipped me extra because I think they realized they were being turds. Well, hey, you get to kind of disrespect them back for their disrespect and you still got tipped well out of it. That's a win in my book. But with that being said, that's all the stories we have for today. So what I want to know is, which of these stories was your personal favorite of the day and why? Let me know which story and why in the comments section down below. And thank you all so very much for watching and listening to the Storytime channel today. If you haven't yet, please consider subscribing and don't forget to turn notifications on so you'll never miss an upcoming video from the Storytime channel. Thank you all again so very much for watching and listening to the Storytime channel.